through to Green Lane. Thank us on it for time-saver traffic and travel.
News Talk ZB Weather Watch 24/7 with Panasonic heat pumps. Whatever the weather, you're in control. Manukau, variable 5 knots, seas smooth. Cloudy periods becoming mainly fine this afternoon. Waitemata, Hodaki Gale for Bremer to Cape Colville, variable 5. Northeast 10 knots this afternoon and early evening, sea slight. High tide at Auckland, 2 o'clock this afternoon. Onehunga, 5 this evening. Auckland today, partly cloudy. Isolated afternoon and evening showers mainly north of Kumeu. Light winds as well. Tomorrow mainly fine and ahead to Thursday, partly cloudy, northwesterlies developing in the morning. Today's high 21, tonight's low 13. Currently we're sitting on 15 degrees here at News Talk ZB.
The breakfast show you can trust. The Mike Hosking Breakfast with Arvida. Live the age you feel. News Talk ZB.
Commentary box with Andrew Saville and Guy Haveld after 8 o'clock this morning, and we'll talk about Paul Cole, who's had a big win in London overnight just a couple of hours ago, of course, so that's all good. Meantime, 23 minutes away from 8, the Prime Minister is with us. Chris Luxon, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Good to be in the Holy of Holies of Hosking Studio.
Yeah, well, there fantastic. You go. I mean, it's, this is what it looks like when you're running a successful business, mate.
It looks good.
It's big and it's shiny. Having said all of that, have you heard Beyonce's new album?
I have, yes. Yeah, I have.
Your thoughts?
I quite like it.
Do
you?
Like
it, yeah.
Is it a country?
Texas Hold'em.
The reason I asked the question is, do you think it's a country album, being a country music fan?
Yeah, well, if you go to the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville, you sort of understand the origins of the music of sort of fiddle music from Ireland and then African slave music. It sort of is sort of the origins of it. So I think she's done something quite provocative and quite good.
Good on her. The single with Miley Cyrus, I think, is the highlight of the album.
Yeah, yeah.
So, see, this is going to be the only time you hear your review of the album.
I didn't know that you were a country music.
I'm a massive country fan.
Great.
All the Dolly Parton,
I should
Willie
put
Nelson.
it on the action plan, a quarterly action plan.
More country music.
More country music.
Let me tell you this right now. If you put more country music on, you are guaranteed at least 52% of the vote for basically forever. Now, the plan that we're talking about this morning, it convinced me that this isn't just more announcements of announcements.
No. I mean, this is really, the 100-day plan has worked well because it's focused the government, focused the public service, but also I want the public to understand what we're committing to doing, and actually they see it up front, and we tell them what we're doing, and we do what we say we're going to do. And it's the same thing here. So we've got another 36 actions in this quarterly action plan. A lot of our focus has to be on rebuilding the economy, as you know, restoring law and order, delivering better public services, and we're going to be very disciplined about making sure all those actions ladder up to deliver those things.
But they're not actions. Some of them are actions, but others are just announcements of actions that will unfold at a later point of time.
Yeah.
I just wonder if that's part of the issue at the moment, whether you're a government of announcements versus actual things that unfold.
It's just recognising that some things are really, discreet and easy, you sort of up and down decision and away you go. Mobile phone ban, right? Get it done, executed, sorted, working great. Other things like RMA reform, you just keep talking about RMA reform, you have endless meetings and officials and everyone debating, discussing stuff. Or you even take those big topics and you chunk them down by decision gates as well through the quarter. So in this case, what we're saying is, look, we're taking decisions, which means then a proposal comes to Cabinet, we're locking in on a position, we're moving it forward. Because I think sometimes my observation is we have these topics that we talk about ad nauseum, and actually you've got to chunk them down and say, okay, that's lovely, but actually what is the action in the next 13 weeks that we're moving this thing forward with?
Okay.
And so even those big topics need to be broken down.
So let's talk about the budget policy statement, which was last week. The debt range she left us with is between 20 and 40%. That's why don't you just say 0 and 100?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's, what we're trying to do is, there's a lot of people out there that would say, look, you've got to carry on doing what's been done before, which is tax more, spend more, borrow more. We're not doing that because that's got a whole bunch of consequences. The others, there'll be a bunch of people saying that you've got to go hard and go into hardcore austerity, as we'd say, with massive, cuts to programs and things. And what we're saying is, look, there is actually a middle way through this, which is you've got to be responsible. A good government should be able to get rid of the wasteful spending, of which there's an awful lot of it, and we're ripping through that. Make sure that we actually protect frontline services, give people tax relief, and grow the economy. And growing the economy is ultimately what we have to get going with in this country.
Okay, but there's no surplus in 26-27, which isn't a surprise, but she didn't even seem remotely interested in 27-28.
Well, that'll be announced at the budget at the end of May, and as you know, there's sort of quite a budget process, but the intention is to sort of, what's obvious is, yes, we're going through a tough period of time, and this is a hangover from 6 years of economic mismanagement. We don't fix it all in one budget, but we've got to start that habit of putting professional, disciplined financial management in place.
But 27-28 isn't one budget, it's several budgets, and one, it politically blows back on you eventually because people are going to get sick of it. But if we can't even run a surplus on an annualised basis,
we have to be able to get to surplus.
There's something wrong with but when? You're not in 27-28, what is it, 29?
But all I'd say to you was, before it was at about $100 million surplus, was what it was at Haifu from memory. And essentially what you've seen is a deterioration in the macroeconomic settings, and as a result that is at risk. And also I'd just say to you, given what we've discovered around funding cliffs and cost overruns and badly spent projects, that $100 million surplus, I'd say, was probably never on the cards.
Okay, give us some examples.
But we have to get to surplus. You're right.
Of course we do. But some of the stuff like the university stuff last week, for example, you announced your disappointment in it. That appears to be it. Like, we're all disappointed. We want it changed, but nothing's going to happen. You see what I'm saying? It's got that image around it that you talk the talk, but you don't do the doing.
Yeah, but I'd just say to you, as Prime Minister of New Zealand, my answer on the universities thing is, universities are supposed to be a place of inclusion where everyone should be included. There shouldn't be any discrimination going on.
But there is.
Yeah, there is, and that's unacceptable.
And what are you going to do about it?
That's a university call, and by calling it out.
Where do the universities get their money from?
Well, they get it obviously from the government.
Exactly.
But the point is very clearly that we don't expect them to be doing that. They shouldn't be doing that. But as Prime Minister of New Zealand, I'm focused on quite some big things.
You can see the muddled messaging here. So you're clear. That's a nice, clear message.
Yep.
They shouldn't be doing it. And yet their answer to you is big fat middle finger, we're going to carry on.
Yep.
So then what?
Yeah. Well, then we continue to look at that. But I'd just say to you, for me, that's not the priority. Yes, I can call that out. I've got to trust that a university sees the merit of their failings and what they're doing wrong. I mean, they shouldn't be doing that. It shouldn't be happening on their campuses. We expect them to change that. But that's ultimately for them to do it. Otherwise, you're Connie, the commentator, sitting here as Prime Minister on every little thing in New Zealand.
Yeah, but that's welcome to New Zealand politics.
I get it, and I'm happy to do that. But the point is, I'm also here to drive the system change that we need to get done.
All right, let me give you the other example, and that was there appears to be, someone was running a story late last week, there appears to be some sort of leak potentially out of Cabinet, the business of reversing the local councils and Maori wards and Maori seats. That's a policy. You've got a policy. That's now on the back burner, allegedly. Is it?
No. What that's about is all three parties opposed that legislation when it was put in place.
Yeah.
We believe fundamentally that local communities should choose whether they do or don't want Māori wards. It shouldn't be imposed from Wellington on the district councils. That's why we opposed it very strongly in opposition. All three parties are in the same place, and the question now is, what's the most effective way of reversing that and getting it back to the situation it once was?
Well, what's the answer to that question?
And the answer is, Simeon Brown's going to talk about it more this week, but the
once
challenge
again, there's the image. Simeon's going to talk about it more this week.
No, but I'll tell you what it is. I mean, the first thing is you want to be able to give councils an ability to rescind it immediately if they wish to do so. There are many councils that are actually considering it right here, right now, and they could stop it. And then we've got to be able to build into what's the most effective, efficient way, cost-effective way to dealing with it, tied into the election cycle next year.
Okay. So are you actually going to do anything about it, or am I going to be asking you about that in 6 months as well?
No, we are. You'll hear an announcement about that this week, but more importantly, it's been pretty well signposted. We want a reversion of things back to where they once were, and that's what the plan will deliver.
Another example, Paul Goldsmith may have gone too far in writing to Te Papa about the defaced, but is he in charge of that or not? And if you want something changed, if you want it taken down, is he in charge, or has he overstepped the mark in writing to them and telling them what to do?
I think he's just laid up a pretty clear expectation that it should be cleaned up, and ultimately, again, under law, that's an operational decision for Te Papa, but he's given pretty clear direction without, with respect. He's got to respect their operational mandate that they've got and the laws that they've got, but good on him for commenting on it.
Do you get the sense, the reason I'm building up with all these various examples, and you're talking about the operational matters, do you get the sense that within the public service in general, there's a pushback against what you were trying to achieve, and if they can get away with it, they will?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a very interesting time because we want a politically neutral public service. That's something New Zealand has ascribed to for a long period of time. They need to support the plans and actions of any government of any particular colour.
Are they?
Obviously, you've seen some issues and leaks over recent times. We're having people pushing back on us in that way, and we want to see swift action on that. And that's has been happening on the couple of 3 or 4 instances that we've had, I think, so far. And I think they're getting it. In fairness to the public service, there are some very good people in there, but I think if you don't have clarity at the political level and the ministers aren't crystal clear of the three things they're trying to do this year, you either get captured by the officials as a minister, and as a result you start implementing a whole bunch of stuff that actually isn't going to move the needle and make an improvement. But I think there's a responsibility on the Cabinet and on the ministers to be crystal clear in the centre about what is their priority before they start embarking on a whole bunch of other stuff. And so it's you got to manage the day-to-day, I get it, but actually if you're not clear at the beginning in the centre, then it gets very mushy as you go out through the system. So I think we owe it to the public service as a government to be crystal clear, which is why these action plans are being put together.
Speaking of Paul Goldsmith, he's looking at trials and jury-selected trials versus judge-selected trials. Are you looking to change that in a way that will impinge in some way in people's right to justice?
No. I mean, the bigger challenge we've got, frankly, in the justice circle is actually the speed of justice coming through the courts, and there's a big backlog there. Part of it will be, whether it's judge or jury trialed, but essentially things like new technology, using telepresence, all those sorts of things. We've got to be able to embrace more modern tools to be able to get through the system much quicker. Okay.
Jack Hodder, do you know the name? KC?
Yes, I've heard of that.
He was one of the people who helped establish the Supreme Court. Do you think the Supreme Court's too activist?
Again, it's not for me as a politician under our system to actually criticise the judges per se, and I can question the effectiveness of their ruling.
He says they are. He helped establish, and he says they are. And Roger Partridge wrote a very good piece for New Zealand Initiative last week on what you guys need to do in terms of law and legislation to tone these people down. So, do you have a concern in general, or we will never know because you don't want to comment on this?
I won't comment on it because I've got to respect
who does
well,
comment
you've got to respect the executive and the legislative, and that's the difference in a good liberal democracy. We actually need to respect.
How will I know whether the government's concerned about the Supreme Court?
Well, we're going to have a series of appointments. We've got a series of judges retiring. Obviously, we have our Attorney General who is responsible for that process.
You're Donald Trump.
No. But what I'm saying to you is there's a series of rotations that come through and continue to come through. But again, from our point of view, the judiciary is separate from the executive, and we have to respect that in our liberal democracy. It's really important we do that.
All right. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Catch up soon. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, 13 away from 8.
Remember how home used to feel? Your own space, but with a sense of community? That's Fairview Lifestyle Village.
In the very heart of the village, as part of the lodge itself, Fairview's apartment living is safe, secure and handy to everything. And while you stay independent, assisted living extras can be tailor-made just for you if required. Plus, Fairview Care is available should your needs change.